Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Welcome to Regis Village. Thank you to the leaders of our great state, including county and local leaders that are here today. Nearly 5 years ago, Bex was able to leverage state, Alameda County, City of Hayward funds to acquire this campus and bring forward a one-of-a-kind model of care for the most vulnerable Californians. As a grantee for the capital acquisition, improvements, and operations, Bax accepted the challenge to deliver one of the most complex care campuses in record time. Regis Village is intentionally designed as the hub of care court and co-located continuum of services for people who have been living outside, who face behavioral health challenges, substance use challenges, significant physical health challenges. The goal is straightforward. People move indoors quickly. They stabilize. We connect them to long-term housing and recovery pathways. Today at Regis, we have permanent supportive housing, 70 permanent supportive housing residents for individuals with complex medical fragilities and other challenges. Residents have already moved in. With their own lock and their own key, they now call Regis Village their home. Behavioral health bridge housing. We have 44 behavioral health bridge housing interim units for largely connected clients to care court. This program allows people to come inside immediately, receive wraparound services, and stabilize them to a permanent pathway for permanent housing. These first two models, 114 units total, are already operational. We did not wait for full renovation. We implemented a phased construction plan with our contractors, Oliver and Company, so that each wing completed, as they are completed, can bring people inside without delay. That is efficiency, that is urgency, that is needed, and that is impact. In the next 4 months, the remaining phases will be completed and we will bring the following services online. 40 medical respite bed units for unhoused individuals stepping down from physical health hospital stays, so recovery happens indoors and not on the streets. A sobering and stabilization center where 12 individuals at a time can receive medication-assisted detox from drugs and alcohol, serving over 3,000 individuals annually. 20 specialized detox beds for those who need additional 7 days of detox support. 40 residential treatment beds for individuals who need up to 6 months of care as they progress in their recovery. A wellness and urgent care center for where up to 40 individuals per day can receive support to avoid unnecessary institutionalized care. And lastly, 44 interim rapid rehousing units for Hayward's unhoused neighbors with services focused on increasing income, accelerating exits to permanent, sustainable housing with dignity, and preventing the cycle of homelessness, a cycle of entering back into homelessness, excuse me. I will close with this. Every intervention here is evidence-based. It is within BAC's scope of work, expertise. We have practiced and practiced for many years. And we would not be able to do this, and I would not be able to do this without recognizing our CEO, whose leadership and advocacy has made this possible. She has set clear expectations to move forward within a phased approach of construction so that we can move the timeline ahead as quickly as possible, renovating while residents are living here, and has been a staunch advocate for making this complex vision come to light. But what we do at BACS is this very work. It is right, it is needed, it is now, and we want to thank you all for making Regis Village a reality. Your leadership has saved lives and will continue to do so for decades to come. Next up, we will hear from our esteemed supervisor, Alameda County Supervisor Elisa Marquez.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hayward and welcome to Alameda County. My name is Elisa Marquez and I represent District 2 on the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to personally thank Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you for your leadership, to you and your executive team. Thank you for your commitment and support. The state has been instrumental in helping Alameda County address housing, homelessness, and mental health issues, including funding sources for HAP, Home Key and Home Key Plus, programs like Care Court, and supporting projects like Regis Village, where we're standing here today. We're grateful for the investments the state has made under Governor Newsom's bold and visionary leadership. Let's give him a huge round of applause. I'm also proud that Alameda County was the first to host a Project Room Key hotel during the pandemic, enabling our community members to have safe housing. We've used HAP funding to significantly expand access to street medicine, housing navigation, interim and permanent housing. We now house more than 6,000 people in permanent supportive housing, and we saw homelessness decrease for the first time in more than 10 years in our 2024 point in time count, with a 3% reduction and 11% reduction in unsheltered homelessness. And we're not done. In fiscal year 24-25, more Alameda County unsheltered residents gained permanent housing than entered or returned to homelessness. And that is because of the leadership. Everyone you see standing behind us here, I want to applaud the county, our local leaders, BACs, and everyone who is solution-oriented and finding answers to these challenging problems. Here at Regis Village, there's diverse programmings to center the needs of our vulnerable community members. This is another great example of partnerships and ingenuity. There is a whole spectrum of services here to support people with their housing and health needs. And I'm proud of the way our county has partnered with BACs to optimize the use of both space and funding. And you see that here. Alameda County was awarded more than $170 million in BCHIP funding to numerous projects, and we're grateful for the expansion of services underway. I look forward to the continued opportunities for us to partner with the state on more efforts like this. Collaboration between state partners and local leaders is essential for engagement in the success of Care Court. Our county has been recognized as a leader in Care Court implementation because we leveraged all available resources and worked with a multitude of partners. Our behavioral health department worked extensively with the courts and other partners across the system to develop protocols and processes that work. We are accountable and we're showing effective metrics. We use our housing and homelessness services team to deploy bridge housing funding in a way that prioritizes Care Court participants. And we've invested in critical community partners like BACs to ensure proper outreach and support for court recipients. To date, Alameda County has served 200 individuals in Care Court. More than ever, our community provided much needed assistance to our most vulnerable community members, and this is critical now, especially due to the negative impacts of HR 1. Regis Village, again, offers a model of integrated services and support that will become even more important due to these federal cuts. I am proud that Alameda County is leading the way in providing care with dignity and respect. I'd now like to introduce one of our critical system partners in advancing the work of Care Court. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Judge Sandra Bean.
Good morning. Well, I was delighted to be asked to speak. There are a lot of people who could have spoken on this subject, including Kate Jones, who's standing over there. To the extent that our Care Court has been successful, it's because of the collaboration and relationship that the court has developed with behavioral health, with the public defender's office, and with BACs. We have really worked together well, and we started early on when we knew that we were going to have to stand up this department. We started working in April of 2023, and behavioral health hired a consultant to help us coordinate ourselves. When you think about having the court with a lot of egos and a big agency like behavioral health, it was really important to have somebody independent who would coordinate us and help us along the way to learn to work together. And I believe that we have learned to work together really well, and it's been a pleasure for the court to be able to work with an agency. Courts don't typically do collaboration, so this has been very different for us. I was fortunate to be the person who was asked to do the care court because I was the only one who wanted to do it. The other person who was interested retired, so I was delighted. I really felt a need for this program in Alameda County. I've lived in Alameda County since 1977, before most of you were born, and it's heartbreaking to drive around the community, to go to the courthouse where I work, and see the people who are living in just horrific conditions. And this CARE Act court really serves the most vulnerable people, the people with mental illnesses. But what I learned early on is that it's not just the mental illness, it's also substance abuse and also developmental disabilities. So these are folks in the community who really can't take care of themselves on their own. And it's very important for us to get out in the community and try to do everything we can to assist these folks. I was asked to talk about a couple of cases that would be our successes. We've had a number of people who have done really, really well. And what comes to mind is someone on the high end of the spectrum and someone on the low end of the spectrum in terms of intellectual ability. We have a woman who is developmentally disabled. She had substance abuse problem and also a significant mental illness. She now has her own apartment. She's taking medication, and she's doing extremely well. We have people with advanced degrees who are also in the CARE Act court, and somewhat similar to the person that I just described, we have a person who was a debate champion before his mental illness. And then at one point in time, developed mental illness, became homeless. His petition was brought by his family, and he's doing very well. He has his own apartment now. So the housing component for our CARE Act participants is critical. It's one of the most important things that we can give them. I had a person who was in court not too long ago who was telling me about how he was living on the street and he had to protect his belongings at all times, that he was being assaulted, that he would have his possessions stolen. And he was just so grateful to have a place to live. And I know that that we in Alameda County really embraced the CARE Act and the CARE Act court when Governor Newsom and the legislature enacted this bill. We were all delighted to do everything possible to make it work. And we're still doing everything we can to try to innovate as much as possible. We've been going to one of the subacute facilities to hold court. And I was going to call that a pilot project, but I heard that was a bad word to say. We've been doing that for the last couple of months to see if we can really develop the relationship with these folks that you have to get them to work with us. And Bax is out there in the community seeing people 20, 30 times before they say yes. You would think that when you come and offer these services to people, they would be delighted. But we've got to consider that we've got people who have been really preyed upon their whole life, or at least during the time that they've had their mental illness. They don't trust. So when you come and offer them things, they're understandably suspicious. So we're working very hard to try to get engagement with the people in the community. And my job is really easy. I just get to sit there and hear all the wonderful stories and things that people are doing. And it's a delight for me to do that type of assignment. And I really appreciate everybody in behavioral health, the Public Defender's Office, and Bax, and the governor, and the legislature for giving us the opportunity.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge Bean. I have witnessed firsthand how these core programs can really make a difference in our communities. My name is Tamika Moss, and I serve as the Secretary of our Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. And I'm really excited to be with you all this morning to announce two critical awards that we are providing today to many regions across the state of California. You know, every time I come out to these press conferences, I'm reminded of what it takes for all of us to work together in order to have the kind of impact that Californians expect and the kind of outcomes that people deserve. And I would be remiss not to thank BACS for your leadership, for your partnership. It's the local partners that allow state investments to really make a difference in our communities. And Jamie, it's been a pleasure to work with you all these many years. And this is just one more example of BACS's dedication to making sure that people have safe and dignified housing and the services that they need to thrive. So thank you. I wanted to talk quickly about our HAP 6 grantees that we're announcing today. There are 20 regions across this great state who are heeding the call. They're taking this seriously. They are putting together regional collaborative plans. Alameda County, many of our counties across the state are putting together regional plans to address our housing and homelessness crisis with the urgency that it deserves. In addition to today's announcement, more than 23 regions have received our HAP 6 funding, totaling almost $579 million. We throw those numbers around a lot, but what that really means is our HAP program, which we know is a high impact evidence-based program, has helped more than 330,000 Californians across the state and housed more than 90,000 people over the multiple rounds of this program. So when the governor asks us to make sure that our programs and partnerships are making a difference, it's in these regions that we are able to see that evidence of success. In addition to our HAP 6 awards today that we're announcing, we're also announcing our Home Key Plus program, which is a product of our Prop 1 funds that the voters of California so generously provided. And today we are announcing 8 new Home Key Plus program awardees, which is investing more than $131 million, funding 443 affordable homes, 91 of those for our veterans who are experiencing homelessness and struggling with behavioral health issues. The Home Key Plus program is crucial in creating permanent supportive housing for Californians who are most at risk of homelessness. And over the last many years, we've allocated more than $700 million in funds to support these kinds of programs. So, you know, I get a chance to talk about the good news. We all need some today. It has been such an incredible pleasure to work with so many of our communities across the state who are serious and invested in seeing the solutions put into action around addressing our homelessness and housing crisis. And these awards and partnerships are just some examples of what we are doing together to tackle this crisis. So thank you so much. It's now my pleasure to introduce my partner in crime, our Secretary of our Health and Human Services Agency, Kim Johnson.
Good morning, and thank you, Secretary Moss. Absolutely partners, because what we know works is the integration of housing, health, behavioral health, substance use disorders. That's where we're seeing the positive outcomes, and that's where we're seeing the success here in Alameda County and all across the state. So grateful for the Alameda County community. This is a few trips I've taken here in the last several months specific to care, really because they are doing it right. The level of urgency that Alameda County is putting forward to help that individual with the most significant behavioral health needs. And Judge Bean, I've been able to sit in her courtroom a couple of times recently and seen the relationship that she has developed with care court participants that makes all the difference in the world, that someone is connected and caring about them, that someone is not giving up on them, and really, again, identifying the resources that they need and prioritizing. So it is about accountability. It's that Judge Bean is able to say, what more can we do? How can we address this housing barrier today? That is all the difference for that individual being med compliant, because those meds might make them drowsy and they have to be on alert when they're on the street. So just seeing this in action, seeing the real success of the people, seeing the passion of relatives who have been trying to get the support, their loved ones supported and connected over time has just been tremendous. And that level of urgency has to happen all across the state of California in the same way. CARE really is part of the broader behavioral health continuum work that we've done with the legislature and the governor's leadership to think about behavioral health transformation, meaning that anyone, anytime across the state can get the help they need when they need it on the full continuum of services that we have, whether that's maybe a friendship line for an older adult all the way to CARE, where it is really about helping those with psychotic disorders and supports getting the connections that they need. So it is a tool, but it's a critical tool. And it's a really saying that we are not going to let that hardest to serve slip through the cracks anymore. They aren't going to be the repeat person showing up in the ER, the person that's showing up with these chronic conditions, that we are going to address their needs and really wrap the service array that's being built in real time, as you see here today, as part of how we do this. So I want to again thank the voters for Prop 1. That's part of our story here. You're seeing here the work in action where this is a campus, where again, we are thinking about the individual who might have access and functional needs, an older adult that also might have bipolar disorder and might also need to use substance use disorder services and supports, and being able to meet the needs of individuals when and where they need it is exactly what we're doing here today and what we're investing in across the state, so that we are seeing a difference in our communities across the state. CARE is not a criminal penalty. It's not a mass conservatorship program. It's not a substitute for housing or treatment investment. What it really is a tool for accountability within the behavioral health system. The court ensures the county provides that robust and responsive set of services, and so again, supports the population with the most complex needs. I want to just share with you through January of this year, courts across California have received 3,817 petitions. Petitions are a way that many responders can get the person engaged. That's everyone from a EMT provider to the relative caregiver who can petition the court. We have 893 care agreements that have been approved, 32 care plans ordered, but we also have over 4,000 care diversions. That means that the individual is getting connected in some way, shape, or form to that supportive services. You heard the judge mention, and I'm very grateful to the BACS organization for their relentless outreach that you just heard described, because it might take multiple times. And while that's happening, while those relationships and trusts is being developed, it's critical that we can get some services started. And again, through the care agreement, we can ensure those services continue and are as robust as they can be. So we are traveling all across the state, not only to learn more about the counties who are doing it well, like Alameda County, but also those who are still trying to understand how to make their process flows work, how to make sure those petitions are coming in, who are also building their continuum and their capacity to serve in real time. And we are out in communities helping them, again, lifting up that best practice at the same time. So we're grateful for the work across the state, and we have to continue with the urgency that the people that we wouldn't want to be given up on if we were in those circumstances need from all of us across the state. So grateful to be a part of this. I want to thank particularly we have the mayor, we have supervisors behind me, you heard from one, but also we have 3 assemblywomen who are champions, Banta, Ortega, and Wahab here in Alameda County. And I want to appreciate their partnership, because in all conversations that we're having together, it's about how we're meeting the urgent needs of communities in this moment. So very, very grateful.
Oh, I was giving her a hard time because she's so happy she's a senator.
Excuse me, Senator. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The legislators and the policymakers. Very good, very good. Just maybe it's something in the future. Just appreciative of the partnership in real time that we are doing to meet the urgent needs of community. And there's no one more that's about being relentless in this pursuit than our governor. And I'm grateful for him, for his leadership, where we have made the most investments, $14 billion in behavioral health, where we are integrated, and where he is very clear about the outcomes we need to make and the progress we need to make together across California. But it is now my pleasure to introduce the governor, Governor Newsom.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. To Mr. Mayor, thank you for having us. And
to all of the elected officials that made all of this possible. I just want to thank you, not only for those that spoke, those that are here, and those that spoke loudly in favor of advancing many of the initiatives we're highlighting today. And those highlights are now physical. They're manifested in the walls and the construction and the sights and sounds around us. This is becoming real. And I want to remind people where we were a few decades ago, frankly, where we were just 6 or 7 years ago. No strategies, no plans, no approach. State of California was absent. State did not have a strategy for behavioral health, did not have a strategy for integrating issues of substance abuse and mental health, did not have a strategy to integrate housing, did not have a strategy to support cities and counties as it relates to developing strategies to get people off the streets and sidewalks, did not focus and prioritize encampments. No strategies, no plans, and little money. It was the creation of a new program that we are highlighting today, the HAP program, but it came with no strings attached, no accountability, no transparency. That's changed dramatically. And it's changed because we needed to change. In 1959, there were 37,000 locked beds in the state of California and a population that's half the size of the population today. 37,000 beds in a population that's half the size today. When we initiated an effort to try to knit back investments, we highlighted that roughly 5,500 units exist today. Population that's double the size, 37,000 down to 5,500. It's the origin story here in the state of California. Yes, it began in the early 60s, accelerated in the late 60s, promoted with no support, but this notion promoting local community-based care, but no real support from the state. And of course, it was accelerated federally, infamously during the 1980s. One component part of that that's interesting, it was a bipartisan endeavor in its origin story. And so while it's easy to cast aspersion and point fingers, it was both Democrats and the Republicans that wanted to move in a different direction. But ultimately, we fell short. No state has been more impacted than the state of California. For one reason, the original sin is not just the lack of investment in behavioral health, it's a lack of investment in housing, period, in the state. We all skipped 7th grade Econ 101. Supply demand, it's not complicated. And for decades and decades and decades, we had housing policies that frankly, outsourced to local government, just as been the case with many of the behavioral health and homeless programs until the last few years. And that's why I want to brag on the Senator, the 2 assembly members, and our partners, not sparring partners, working partners at the city and county level that recognize we need to do things better and do things differently. We created a new website, accountability.ca.gov. Accountability.ca.gov. I encourage you to take a look at it, to take a look at how your local officials are doing. State vision is realized locally. State vision is realized locally. I've said it many times. Localism is determinative. Housing, homeless, the work that's done locally, the work that you did together here. It's not the state. The state enabled and supported it. You made it happen is what we're focused on here today and what we've been focused on over the course of the last number of years. And that's why numerically, we're calling people out. We're also highlighting success. Alameda County is one of our success stories. And we've highlighted them on the accountability.ca.gov website as one of the outstanding leaders in this space, yes, Care Court, but in many different spaces as it relates to the partnership and the utilization of state-backed programs and funds. Humboldt County is another. There are a number of counties that get it and are getting things done, proving it can be done when you have leadership that cares enough to get it done, as opposed to dials it in. They've dialed it up. Judge is a perfect example. Co-equal branches of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judicial branch. That 3-legged stool working together, not finger pointing, but pointing North Star to solve problems. There are counties that haven't gotten it done, like Santa Clara County. Well, I've been critical of some of my friends down there and been talking to the mayor's office and members of the Board of Supervisors in my old hometown, San Francisco, of how we can get things back on track. And we're calling them out as well. They're the Care Court ICU. bottom 10. And look, I'm down to my bottom 10 months left in office. And, you know, the next 10 weeks, with respect, I'm not interested in a May revise that reflects funding failure more efficiently. I'm happy to redirect every damn penny in these programs to the counties that are getting things done, period, full stop, unless they stop doing what they've done. Don't make any more excuses. If you want things improved, we'll do it. These guys have made many amendments to care court. Senator Umberg and others, I mean, I don't know how many last 2 years signing a number of bills. We're iterating. This is a process. The judge didn't want to use the word pilot. We came out of the pilot phase. I'm just trying to sort of re-engage some energy here, but it is an iterative process, and a pilot is not unfair. You're doing something that's never been done, not just in the state, but in this country, moving away from the old binary of substituted care or no care, jail in the streets, to this notion of supportive care. And that's a paradigm, you know, of massive consequences. It shifts the mindset, and we shift the funding and the incentives, but we're also happy to iterate. So if those counties have specific things they need, that's why we're here, to support the effort, to support the cause, to get people off the streets and sidewalks, out of encampments as a top priority, and prove to the public that we can get things done. But the good news is, and I want to appreciate the supervisor's comments, thank you for 11%. The numeric that matters is unsheltered. Getting people in that shelter is actually a positive thing, meaning getting them support. Ultimately, we want them out 100% on their own with no subsidies. But the unsheltered is the numeric. That's been the friction. You heard it over a decade. They didn't see a reduction. They saw a double-digit reduction here at 11% in Alameda County. And we saw last year in the state of California, almost double-digit, 9% for the first time in over 15 years. We're making progress now. We're moving in the right direction. It's starting to work. Prop 1, unprecedented implementation. Fastest distribution of funds in bond history in California. 70% of goal in that first tranche, that $2.99 billion that we put out, to significantly expand outpatient treatment and locked and unlocked beds all across the state. You're seeing it happening all across the state. So I'm going to be all across state highlighting these things, as I have been for many, many months. We have been traveling around the state highlighting projects like this, and it's great to see things become real. And that's what people demand. That's what they want. That's what I demand. That's what I want. I'm a taxpayer first, and a frustrated one at times when it comes to this topic. And no one's been a bigger critic of this than I have. And that means I'm held to a higher level of accountability than anybody. I get that. And you know what? I'm proud of that. I have agency. It's a gift. Easier than sitting watching your newscasts and wanting to yell and scream at everybody. But that accountability also needs to be shared across the spectrum. The federal government doesn't give a damn about this. They demagogue it. They've walked away. They tried to completely whack all the mental health dollars until there was an outcry. It's not my assertion. It's just a simple fact. Trump administration could care less about this. Doing not a damn thing on affordability. Quite the contrary. Look at your cost at the pump the last few days. That was an act of the Trump administration, an act of war that directly participated in making affordability crisis worse for you as we cut taxes for billionaires, cut behavioral health funding, cut healthcare funding, cut food stamps to fund a war that no one wants and was never approved by Congress, increasing the costs to everybody. We're here, despite all that noise, trying to get things done for real people. Focus on results. $291 million yesterday. You heard all those numbers. Everyone rolls their eyes. No one cares anymore. I get it. They care about results. But we are flooding the zone with support. Final words. That includes, and this is why I'm in this space of enough. The cities and counties under Prop 1 this July will now have $1 billion redirected ongoing money. You all say you need ongoing money so that we can make long-term commitments. You're going to get it. So enough excuses. $1 billion to integrate that housing on an annual basis with $6.38 billion of capital. Come on. Let's see these encampments cleaned up, people off the street. Let's see these tax dollars produce the results you deserve. And let's make the kind of difference the judge highlighted here today, not only for those that got the benefit, but those family members that got to sleep at night, not worrying about their son, their hero, when they watched them on that debate stage, or their daughter, and wondering what the hell, is that phone call that I'm getting? Is that the call that I've dreaded all my life? So, Judge, thank you for your work. Thank you for everyone doing the work. And thank you all for this opportunity to share a little bit about where we are and where we will be going over the next few months and years on this subject. With that, are there any questions on this topic? Because if there are none, we can get to other topics, and the judge has to get back and incarcerate more people.
When it comes to additional accountability measures relating to the airport specifically in the counties that are not performing as well as others, can you talk more specifically about what you see there and whether it's just a loss of state?
Yeah, we got our accountabilities are here, and I'm going to let her fill in the blanks, and I'll add a little.
No, I appreciate that. We've been looking at kind of the petition averages across counties. And of course, we recognize in care implementation that we had some early adopters in cohort 1, everyone across all 58 counties implementing as of January of 2025. But what we would say is that when we look at the universe of those who could be supported by this effort, and the petition rate is demonstrating one way to see success. CARE is not a tool for everyone. There's a voluntary component to it, right? So again, that's where I articulated the actual continuum, the integration that we have across, because we want to be able to use whatever tool the individual in front of us needs. But when we look at those numbers, and especially as you're hearing, and you'll see on accountability.ca.gov, the kind of per petition rates, is where we've been able to identify the champions like Alameda County and those counties that the governor mentioned, Santa Clara, as one that needs some additional work. And so our intent and what we have been doing, as I said, been in communities all across the state, is to go out and understand what is happening today. Can we do more outreach and support the outreach of first responders to understand their role as petitioners in communities? There have been city champions all across the state as well. But bottom line is, we need to see the individuals who can benefit from these resources in the care process served, and they need to be served today. So that's how we're looking at that.
To me, that sounds like, okay, tracking the data, but what about ramifications for those counties that are underperforming when it comes to that data?
We've used a lot of tools over time, I think, in terms of really trying to we always look at incentives and other approaches, but the bottom line is, you heard the governor talk about resources, right? The dollars that are in community have to be utilized, especially to serve those who need them the most. And I think that's our intent, and we have to make sure that's happening, and the need is there. So to be determined what else we'll see coming, Governor.
Look, I wish I had more time, because I'm just out of patience. And I hope that's the mindset of members of the Assembly and Senate and whoever replaces me. Enough. We did it with homelessness. We created a homeless accountability unit. And, you may recall, we sued one city. We've been in litigation nonstop. I mean, that's just folly and a farce, the way they operate down in Huntington Beach in terms of housing and homeless policy. They're not even interested. They just completely dismiss it. Put 46 other cities on notice. We integrated in that housing accountability unit homelessness a year and a half ago for the first time, which is encouraging. We funded that accountability strategy. So litigation, being in compliance, you look at all the measures of accountability we put in. Every year we're iterating, we're adding additional things as it relates to RENA goals, as it relates to the housing element, as it relates to making sure that we're funding a baseline of expectation, 6.2 petitions per 100,000 residents is a specific numeric as it relates to where we are today in terms of the average care court petition, and how we then utilize that to benchmark and compare and contrast. But I'm just not interested in funding failure now. So, they may overrule me. There's a lot of power in LA County, Riverside County, Santa Clara County, some of the counties we're calling out to overrule. But, with respect, I'm happy to sweep every damn dollar and redirect it to those, folks up in Humboldt, folks over here in Alameda. Pay for performance, period. It's just, that's common sense. So if they don't come back, here's my judgment. And again, I'll submit that may revise, and we'll go back and forth, and they may have totally different point of view. And that's part of the dialectic. And I've been doing it a long time, and I know how this works intimately. But I'm at that point where I'm happy to sweep all that money. You're not using it. You're not using it effectively. You're not producing the results. It's state law. Counties are required under state law to implement care court. It's the law. So why the hell are we funding them if they can't get it done, or they're just dialing it in? And so that's my approach. And it's not, you guys have seen me over the years as I was saying it a moment ago, once a mayor, always a mayor. I'm sensitive, Mr. Mayor. Because I know how hard they work, and no one wants to be laid out. And then you guys run and you get the mic and you say, well, the governor today attacked your county, you respond, and you get a little more ratings, and the producer says, great job. And then there's this friction and bad energy and no one's happy. I mean, I get how that, I'm not trying to, do what Trump does 24/7, piss on grasshoppers to hear them sing. It's an old French poem, which is broadly what he does on a daily basis. I'm trying to get along, but I'm also like you, and I think you, as all of us, feel a sense of urgency and frustration, though we are making progress, and I'm proud of that, and I do want to highlight it. I want to highlight Alameda. I want to highlight all the people behind me and in front of me, because you guys are getting it done, and that's important too. And so thank you for making this happen. Anyone else on this topic? I love it. I love it. I love that you all came. You're friendly. Things have radically changed, that homelessness and housing are not the dominant focus now of people. Well, I just, we saw the headlines of what happened in Austin. They're still investigating that. I'm mindful of that and all the injuries and deaths. The alarms here outside, sirens are across the world, not just across this country, and cities and counties small. Our Office of Emergency Service. I mean, we've had conversations over the last few days that we didn't have to have prior days as it relates to emergency preparedness and planning and unintended consequences, the uncertainty that Donald Trump has unleashed around the world. 4 service members died today, and Donald Trump spent more time talking about his ballroom than he did about the loss of those lives. Review the tape. Spend more time talking about the curtains and his ballroom than he did the 4 service members that died because of his operation in his declaration of war without congressional consent. He still has not articulated clear vision of what the end game is, period, full stop. No War Powers Act that's been exercised. I'm glad Congress is doing its job this week. Energy prices are up across the globe. Oil prices are up. Gas prices are going up. Every $10 increase in a barrel is roughly 24 cents per gallon that you'll be paying more because of Trump's war. Unfunded war, as he's cutting food stamps because he says he can't find money, as he's cutting taxes to the most well-heeled and well-off. They didn't even ask for those tax cuts, as he's cutting Medicaid programs, and people are struggling with affordability. After he quite literally doubles down on stupid, meaning the existing policies of this administration at the State of the Union, offering no new strategies and no pivot from an economy that's slowing down with the worst job growth since 2013, inflation that is now going back up. The only saving grace was gas prices, and now they're spiking up. The markets are down. Crypto has collapsed. He said we would become wealthier and healthier under his administration. We're sicker and poorer. And now we have Gulf allies that are being attacked. We have American planes that are literally being shot down by American allies. We have to reconcile why our bombs were used, or Israeli bombs were used, to kill children, young girls at a school, and what the imminent threat was. It hasn't been described. Again, what was described today extensively were the beautiful ballroom and the curtains in the White House. Next question.
With the oil, sorry, just a quick follow-up with the oil situation. I mean, the state is going to have to start bringing in a lot of fuel from other countries. And just, are you worried about how global conflict could impact the price of energy in the state?
Well, that's by definition, and my comments align with that concern. Look, the Straits of Hormuz is about 20% of oil distributed at 21 billion barrels a day that go through there. Most of it, though, to Asia, disproportionate amount to China. But those impacts are being felt because the global nature of pricing in the system. You've got a number of Iranian vessels that were directly impacted, oil tankers. We've got, again, Gulf allies that are almost universally being attacked and under assault. Safe places like the UAE under attack, under assault. It's now a proxy war that's extended in Lebanon and Hezbollah. You saw the actions there and the deaths and likely retaliation. So now we have the prospect of a regional war. And so, yes, we're specifically to your question and give you a little bit of background and insight, had extensive conversations over the weekend, gaming out worst case scenarios as it relates to access of imports, as it relates to the ongoing issues around refineries, as it relates to past impacts of similar endeavors in the Middle East and what we can anticipate. And so the whole energy team was on call this weekend, gaming those things out, and including access to airline fuel in specific terms. That was also part of our strategy. The good news is, as you know well, because of those refinery issues, we've got a wonderful group of people that are meeting on a consistent basis already. This just only reinforces the concerns we have as it relates to gas scarcity or potential just spiking of prices in the next days, weeks, and potentially months, as Donald Trump said today, that this could be months and months of additional attacks. And in return, the likelihood that we're going to see the prospect of more uncertainty, not just around the globe, but here domestically along the lines of what happened in Austin. Any other questions?
Governor, since you're a big fan of our off-topic questions, polls have been raised to replace you, as you know, fairly consistently.
Oh, you know Jay, I mean, you know my position. I don't talk about this governor's race.
Even if I ask you if you're concerned
No.
about lockout, whether some of those
No, I know. I told you I just, this is where I need, I have to let it go. I have to accept the fact that I have a sell-by date and I'm a milk carton. And I just haven't fully done that. I've been more interested, honestly, less, and forgive me, as I said, I'm turning into Jerry Brown. I always dismissed him for talking like this. What do you mean? You should be focused on us, not you. But I've been focused on, energy concerns and honestly, and focused on things like, Prop 1 and getting things done, more accountability in care court and delivery. So I honestly haven't taken a look, and nor I don't think the public has. And the only thing I'll say this to give you something, because I know you need something, is it's been hard, I think, to focus on that race. You would have had a lot more focus last year, but there were a series of circumstances that shifted attention. Trump is 24 hours a day, sort of redirecting attention, nationalizing our focus on politics. And then you had the issues around Prop 50, which I think also took a lot of energy. You had the questions of whether or not Kamala was going to get in, whether or not Padilla was going to get in. That may have. And so people are just, I think, starting to focus a little more. And if you don't want to, just turn on the TV and every minute there's an ad. But I just don't get a sense. When I'm talking to people, I'm not suggesting you're not real, but people, real people, I didn't mean to say that because you're very real. But when I'm out in the community, people aren't talking to me about it, which is interesting this late, just weeks and weeks before early voting. And so as a consequence, I'm not directly as engaged as perhaps I might need to be. And I think that is a lead into your question that you were hoping to suss out from me.
And I ask in part, Governor, because people see the possibility of a lot of Democrats.
Yeah.
On the lockout number, is there any figure in the party?
And I think it's reflected in the final comment I made.
Governor, can we we close it out with Alameda Gate?
Oh, I love it. What are you gonna,
Yeah.
you got an
Let's close
Alameda
it out.
shout out?
Yeah, I just want
Oh,
to
I love
close
it.
out.
This is my new press secretary. Well done. Well
I
done,
know you got
Supervisor.
places to
Yeah,
go.
oh, look at-
So I just
wow.
want to acknowledge our board president, Mayor Salinas, our legislators, but let's just chant and backs. Alameda gets it done. We are the blueprint. So please partner with us. We're happy to share our expertise. And thank you, Judge Bean, for your compassion and leadership, and to our
Seems
amazing
you want that
governor.
Santa Clara money. I get it.
Yeah. Bring it over here. We'll take it. But let's close it out. Alameda gets it done. Thank you very much, everyone.
Well done.